Kenji, it is really great to be back in Japan and to see
Welcome to Japan.
Thank
Back
you
in
so
Japan.
much. Thank you so much. So I'm really excited to do this with you. And I was wondering, I'll share some of my experiences, but I was wondering, how do you see in Japan sort of the state of Agile now in 2025?
In 2025. 日本の現状っていうことなんですけど、僕の中でやっぱりそのアジャイルはもう日本でかなりノームになってきて、で、やっぱりスタートアップはじめ、あるいはメガベンチャーなんかはもうそれが普通の働き方になっているし、それが普通なんですけど、ただ、日本の大企業になると、やっぱ全然進んでないところもあって、で、そのカルチャーのやっぱりギャップに苦しんでるっていうところかな。All the startups and mega ventures are doing agile very normally, but we still have bigger Japanese traditional companies still struggling with not the technology or techniques, but the cultural.
The culture, the mindset. Yeah, that is so what I'm seeing in the US and Europe, where I've spent a majority of my time, is that there's sort of two parts of it. There's the team level Scrum, getting Scrum training, you get these teams up and running quickly and going fast, and which is great. And that's sort of a solved problem. We know how to do that. And then what I'm seeing now is more of, okay, how do we fit that into our operating model? Because the operating model is how the company is run. And sort of one of the things I'm seeing is the division between that. Those are two separate things. There's Scrum at the team level, and that's how do we be agile at the organizational level? So we're seeing both the bottom up from the team and from the top down from the leadership and organization, which I think is really the key to organizational agility, which is what you really want, be able to react and pivot and turn as an organization. Are you seeing that?
Yes. 2010年くらいですごく日本にはスクラムチームが増えて、チームレベルのアジャイルっていうのはかなりできてきていて、で、そのチームがこう増えてきた時にどうやるかって話と別に、その組織体として、事業の運営だったり、その製品の開発、プロダクトの開発と、それから、マーケットの開発も含めた全体を、そのアジャイルな企業としてどうやるかっていうのは、やっぱ大きなテーマになってる。
Absolutely. And what we're seeing now is that, because at one level, at an organization level, it's, okay, how do we get priorities down, very clear from the strategic level down to the teams, and how do we get impediments and raise those up? And I find when I talk to leadership who you're like, Scrum? What is Scrum or whatever? I say, this is what Scrum at Scale and Scrum give you to do. And it's not, hey, what's your team velocity or whatever. Those are important for the teams, but at a leadership level, it's how do we make the organizational priorities transparent? How do we get the organizational capacity understood so we know how much we can do? And I think that what really I'm seeing, and I'm sure I wonder if this is the same in Japan, is that some more traditional organizations, government organizations or really large companies now feel the need very much to react to a changing world, and they're seeking out agile solutions to do it. Then they're using the operating model, how the company works to address that.
日本のその産業構造ってちょっと変わったところがあって、なんていうのかな、ソフトウェアを中心に開発している開発チームっていうのは、そのオペレーションも含めてアジャイルになってきているものがやっぱ多いと思う。それはその2000年以降立ち上がった日本の会社っていうのは、そのベンチャーからその最初からソフトウェアをやってた方が、そのリーダーシップレベルにいるケースが多くって、その人たちはアジャイルのことをよくわかっていて、で、会社全体をアジャイルな経営のやり方でやっていこうっていう企業はたくさん見るんですけど、ずっと昔からあるトラディショナルな日本の企業っていうのは、ほとんどのソフトウェア開発を調達、プロキュアメントしてるんですね。そうすると、こう発注して、それを納品して、それをビジネスに使うっていう、企画をして、仕様を書いて、それを、誰が作るんですかっていうのをビットして、で、出来上がったソフトウェアをアクセプトして、で、市場に出すみたいな、すごい、こう、タイムラインの長いデリバリーの、タイムラインでやってるところまだあって、で、そうなると、オーガザイゼーショナルレベルでのその意思決定をアジャイルにやるっていうことと、そのソフトウェアをアジャイルに作るっていうことの距離が随分まだ離れてるところがあっ て、なんかそれをなんか一緒に考えられてないっていうのはちょっとなんか僕がよく見るケースで、そうなるとそのアジャイルのっていうことになった時に、そのソフトウェアから来ている、アジャイルの人たちと、それから経営をそのビジネスの意味でアジリティを高めるっていうことを考えているリーダーシップっていうの間がまだ結構距離があるっていう、そんな今見え方をしてますね。
One of the things that Scrum does and what the goals is, how do you shorten the gap from a decision intent to execution? Because the shorter that gap is, the faster you move. And really outsourcing your software development does have challenges to it of they aren't part of it. How do you engage with them? It can be done. Certainly can be done. And incorporating agile teams there. But what is important to remember is the goal. How do we get a rapid iteration from a customer, whether it's internal customer or an external customer, so we can learn and grow? Because the danger is, okay, we're going to have, here's all of our requirements. And then we toss it over the transom. Here's our requirements. And we just toss it over the fence to another company.
And requirement changes.
Yeah, and the requirements change
all the time.
All the time. And so you want to figure out a way, how do you embrace that change? How do you say that's fine? And so you have to have just like in a startup, you have a prioritized backlog, but they say, oh, now we've realized we don't need that part. We need a different part because we've gotten feedback from the marketplace. And that's what modern software companies are doing. This is why your iPhone updates 20 times a day, because that's what those app companies are doing, is they're constantly delivering new. One of the things that we've seen, I was talking about the Scrum Inc. Japan, was that a lot of technology companies can deploy, I forget the exact numbers, like 40% can deploy like once a week. And maybe a quarter of them can do it like once a day. And Amazon does it more than once a second. And how they do that, which is what makes Amazon really scary to any competitor. But how they do that is they have architected their organization in an agile way. So they have small teams who have independent path to production, clear backlogs, so they know what to do, and they're delivering small, tiny increments all the time. And that speed, where they're delivering, getting feedback, I mean, as you can see, when Amazon gets into an industry, they are dominant very quickly. In the United States, for instance, in the healthcare industry, Amazon has gotten into that both with doctors, pharmacies, sometimes little insurance companies, and it is driving that whole multi-hundred billion industry in a completely different direction, because everyone is freaking out because Amazon is delivering so much more quickly. And that's what it does. It's the intent, decision, execution, learning.
Great. The loop. Because it's changing.
Right,
and we are learning from it.
Right. And it's this constant changing. And I wonder if you're seeing this too, Kenji, is that the people our customers are more saying, I want agility, I want to do Scrum, but I want it for this outcome, rather than, because I think before people say, oh, I want to be agile. You say, well, why? And what more and more organizations are doing, I want to be agile so I can deliver more units, or I want to be agile so my company can respond to market changes. I want to be, but when we're speaking to leadership these days, it's much more outcomes based. For example, I was telling you about this last night when we were at dinner. There's one company in Guatemala that we're working with that is using Agile to build apartment buildings. And I was talking to the CEO, and it's fascinating using Scrum in a construction context. People talk about hardware. Construction takes a while, but they're like, okay, how do we get it from 70 months to deliver an apartment building to 36? But when I talked to the CEO, he says his measure, how many apartments can I sell next week? How many apartments can I move that inventory? Because of course, financing
inventory is bad.
Inventory is bad. So, which is very interesting. And are you seeing that kind of approach of just changing the kind of metrics, what they're looking at, that leaders are looking for, rather than just agile metrics?
考えてるかね。いや、考えてるとは思うけど、なかなかそれをアジャイルというふうに結びつけないよね。なんでかな、ちょっとわかんないけどね。 I think it's because the industry structure or Japanese, なんて言うんだろう、就労感っていうのかな、その仕事に対するその考え方っていうのが、やっぱりその、オペレーショナル仕事をしている、真面目にいい仕事をするっていうのが日本の習性であって、それとそのイノベーションをガンガンやって、どんどんこう成長していくぜっていうようなタイプの経営をやってる、そのスタートアップ経営のところはいいけれど、まだ大きな会社っていうのはすごく安定していて、長期のビジネスの安定をやっぱり望んでいるところがあるので、そういうところでちょっとそのアジリティっていうことと、それからいい会社、日本流のいい会社っていうのは、まだちょっとギャップがあるように僕は感じている。Yeah, but we're changing.
Right.
A lot of companies now have the word agility or agile in their 経営方針. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I think that it's one of the things that agility can do was actually give you more predictability. Because one of the things that people say is, I want to have the long plan because it's more predictable. I can say in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years, what's going to be happening. But we all know that you make a 5-year plan, 2 months from now, it's outdated. And that's not really what you're going to do. If you hold on to that plan and something happens dramatic, like, I don't know, a worldwide pandemic, reacting to that and changing with market forces and outside external events and having to rapidly iterate can actually make it smoother and the planning going out farther. So instead of having this huge reaction to some event, it's easier. What Scrum at Scale does is make it easier to redirect your resources, your people, your investment to a new area, whether it's because of a market shift or a new opportunity or a new innovation.
Yeah, and actually, COVID changed a lot of things. Well, the way we work, we talk in Zoom or other internet conversations, and people can gather anytime.
Right.
So I think it's その COVID が流行ったことによって、すごく日本の開発も、みんなで話しながら進めるっていう方向に逆によくいい方向に向かったんだと思う。それで、おそらく、アジャイルの採用率も増えていったし、それから家で仕事をするっていうことのスタイルもだんだんできるようになってきて、会社にこう行って仕事をするっていうことだけが仕事の仕方じゃないし、そのアウトカム、仕事の価値の出し方っていうのもみんな変わってきているっていうのが、なんか僕はそれがすごく日本を、こう、アジャイルにしていった一つの、本当はアジャイルは一つの場所に集まってチームが部屋にいてっていうのが基本だと思ってたけど、今、地理的に離れていても、こうやっているともう同じ部屋にいるような感覚に包まれることもあって、そういうなんかこう、なんだろうな、書かれたりしてないこと、話すことで初めて相手の表情で分かったりすることも含めて、そのアジャイルなチームっていうことを、僕は、やっぱ、ここの、5年、10年っていうのが後押ししたんだなと思って。だからそれで現場も変わっていったし、それから経営も、こんなに大きな変化があるんだっていうことを身をもって体験したっていうのがあって、なので、今やっぱりそのアジャイルっていうことについては、みんな理解を持って少なくとも取り組んでるし、ただ、カルチャー上の難しさって僕まだあるとは思うけど、でも、いいこととしてアジャイルを捉えているし、そういう意味では、全然、僕が10年前にやってた頃よりは、すごく明るい、今、未来を感じてるかな。
One of the things that I think, moving to more of a virtual remote work over Zoom, what agility does is, because it's harder. If you're not all in the same space, communicating with each other, just knowing what's happening, you have to be more disciplined about it because it's just harder because we're not all together. When you're all in the same room, you can kind of be a little sloppy because everyone can hear each other. But what Agile does, what Scrum does, is it says, okay, let's make the work visible. Where is that backlog? Who is doing what? How do we have a daily Scrum where everyone checks in so we don't have rework or people working on the same thing? Which I think that power of agility of making everything transparent, both what we're trying to do, what the state of the work is, who's doing what, helps immensely, especially in a virtual environment.
Many of our teams are connected with Zoom 8 hours a day.
Wow.
All the time. So anytime we can talk to and ask something.
Right. Yeah, it's just that instant communication. I was just thinking about this the other day. In a Zoom environment, if I want to stick my head into someone's office and ask them a question, I can't I feel bad doing that in Zoom and just I'll Slack them or whatever. Hey, do you have a minute? Whatever. But in an office environment, I run into somebody.
Yeah.
I just have this, serendipitous is the word in English, exchange. And so what Scrum does is it gives people a framework to do that. I mean, often people, when we describe Scrum, people are like, oh, that's the way everyone should work. That's just the best way to work. And my response is, well, why aren't you doing it then? And often they don't have the framework to do it. And that's what Scrum does, is give the structure.
そうそう。だから、なんていうのかな。こちらから頑張って、声をかけて話しに行くっていうことはもちろん昔も大事なんだけど、でもスクラムやってればそういうタイミングが自動的に現れて、そのタイミング同期してやっぱ話すってこともできるし、それから、僕はもう、自分はもう出社をいつもしてるのは、やっぱりなんていうのかな、何時から会議をしようって言って、カレンダーに入れた時点でもうその意図がなんかボケちゃってるというか、なんか、何時から会議って言って話すようなことでもないことを予定を取って入れて、なんかすっかり冷めて話が始まったり、相手が警戒したりっていうこともあって、だからなんか予定枠を取って話をするっていうこと僕本当あんまり良くないなと思ってて、パッと出かけてって、あの話だけどさ、ちょっと困ったんだけどさ、みたいな話しかけ方で話をし始めたいんだけど、なんかそれが、できないような、環境っていうのはやっぱ辛いなと思って。だから、言いたかったのは、ホビットが始まって、リモートワークができるようになって、で、こうやってね、カンバセーションもうまくできるようになって、だけど、彼はセレンディピティな会話って言ってたけど、パッと始まるような会話ってやっぱすごく重要だと思うし、そういうのがやっぱり起こるような、スクラムはそれをフレームワークだとも思うし、それから、僕らなんかはさっき言ったけど、常時、ズームで繋いでるみたいなチームもたくさんあったりして、パッと気がついた時に話せるってやっぱ重要かなって思う。
Which is, I think, part of the magic of Scrum. And I was just thinking, one of the things in terms of ways of working that we're seeing at the organizational level, which I'm seeing a change, I wonder what it's like in Japan, is that people are always telling me, well, prove Scrum works here, or prove Scrum is going to work in my company. And I've used to argue with them a lot and say, oh, well, this is the proof, here's the scientific research, here's all this stuff. And now I say, I can prove what you're doing now isn't working. So isn't it worth doing an experiment? And that's what I'm seeing. And framing it that way, of saying, let's just try for a few months and see what happens.
Nice trick. Interesting.
I think that people, so I want to turn out to the hot topic, of course, in the world, AI. And you're much more of an expert in this as I am. And I want to talk about AI as a team member, because you've thought a lot about that. And we were talking about that earlier off mic. But what I'm seeing in our customers is people say, should we invest in AI? Should we invest in Agile? Should we invest in Lean? And what we have found is you got to do both, because you cannot take advantage of AI because the rapid insights, the rapid change, the rapid learning without an Agile team that can respond and learn from that. And that's what we're finding in companies that are just adopting it, not like AI companies that are really advanced and doing all this stuff, but all of the AI technical people I speak with are saying you can't take advantage of AI itself without an Agile team to take advantage of it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think AI is a accelerator and also amplifier of humans' capability and do things much faster and much more beautiful. But intention or why do we make that product, or how would you want it to be, kind of thing, is from humanity anyway. So those kind of conversation comes from the team, and of course from the conversation from the customers. At that point, that area still AI has not covered yet, because those informations are more from the なんて言うんでしょう。tacit knowledge, maybe wow kind of thing,
right?
Which cannot actually now precisely captured by AI, because for example, if one customer say that, もしなんか、お客さんのところに行って、こういう製品どうですかって聞いたときに、まあ、使えてますよって言った場合、まあ、使えてますよっていうのを、その字面で AI が要約して、まあ、使えてますと。妥当な範囲で使えていますみたいな答えをすると言うけど、多分日本のインタビュアーだったら、あるいはその人間のインタビュアーだったら、まあ使えてますねって、多分これはあんまり使えてねえんだろうなと。何かこうね、そこになんか感じることがあって、こう、もうちょっと深く、その場で掘れるんですよね。で、その場で掘れるってやっぱすごい重要だと思ってて、なんかそのエリアっていうのは、まだその AI がカバーできてないし、そここそ、まだ、議事録にもそこが、感情の揺れとともに、完璧に乗らないから、そこのところは、まだまだ人間がね、カバーしていってっていう、顧客の思いのところを、バックログなりなんなりで落とすところのところって、まだ人間がやっぱすごく必要で、それと、アジャイルのループを使って、暗黙知的な世界観、つまり、まだ言葉になっていない世界と、それをこう、言葉にしていく人間と、それを、言葉になったらもう AI の勝ちだからね。で、それをうまくAI が、どうそれを活用していくかっていう、話を、アジャイルのチームでやるっていうことを考えなきゃいけないと思ってる。で、特に今年野中育次郎先生亡くなられたけど、野中先生が暗黙知と形式知の行ったり来たりが知の創造だっていう話をされて、やっぱ暗黙知から形式知に変えて、形式知が形式知にまた編集されて、その形式知を人間が学ぶことでまた暗黙知に戻っていくっていうループが積モデルっていうね、絵を皆さん思い浮かべてほしいんですけど、このループの中で形式知が関わるところって一旦形式知になったら多分 AI の勝ちなんですよね。だけど、暗黙知のところ、あの時にああいう経験をしたよなとか、あの時に見に行った、あれは何だったんだろうな、みたいな、みんなの記憶に入っている何か思い出のような、場面とかそういうものに、人間はインデックシングして、あの時のあれっていうふうに言うんだけど、そういったものが、本当は、人間の力を介して形式知に入っていって、プロダクトになって出ていくっていう、そんな世界観が、今の世界観で AI がそこに入ってきたときに、暗黙知の形式知の部分の変換の部分とか、その形式知をうまく使った AI の使い方っていうのも爆発的に、今後大きくなるだろうなと思ってて。で、そのループを回すのがおそらくアジャイルは必須だと思ってるし、特に振り返りや、プロダクトレビューのような、顧客との対話だったり、チーム間での、気づいたこと、ランしたことの、形式知化みたいなこと。そういうことが AI も読めるような形になってきたら、もう、すごくワクワクする世界観だなと思って。それは次の世界観だなと思ってるんですけど。
That's really interesting because as you were saying earlier, that AI is a accelerator of humans. Where I think about, I was reading about some companies that are using AIs to do things like code review, which is it's explicit knowledge. We're looking at something that already exists. And so we can, it's really good at that and better than humans. And so do you think that using AI is how do we let the humans do the tacit knowledge, what humans are really good at, rather than competing with what robots are really good at? Let the robots or the AIs do what humans, they're better than humans at. Which frees up our capacity for doing the more human things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I think about, this is a story I tell often, which is a few years or maybe 10 years ago, Garry Kasparov, the famous Russian chess grandmaster, decided we are going to have a tournament. And now any computer can beat any human in chess. Your phone can beat the best grandmaster ever. So he said, well, let's have a tournament where there are humans, there are machines, there are humans and machines working together. He said, anything is open. You can do anything you want to do. And what was interesting is the people who won were two guys with a laptop, not IBM's Deep Blue, not, Watson, not the supercomputers, not the chess grandmasters working with the supercomputers. He said, because those two people had a better process of learning and interacting with the machine. So he said, this is well before AI became, generative AI became a thing. He said, it's humans plus machines plus a better process, that is actually what is the victory. And I think that Scrum and agility is the better process.
I got the idea. I get it.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you were telling me, and this is outside of my area of expertise, and I hear people, my father talks about this a lot, is AI as an actual team member on a Scrum team. How does that work in your experience, or what are we searching to do there?
What I'm searching to do is that now AI can read a file which has the working agreement. So the timing of asking or checking in, or even the character of people. I mean, 例えば、この人は気が弱いからあまり強くこういうことを言わないでみたいなことも含めて、その人のキャラクターみたいなものも、例えば、クロード MD だったりっていう、AI が最初に読むファイルの中に、いろんなルールを書くこともできるし、それから人間的特性なんかも書くこともできるっていうのが、なんて言うんだろうな、人間とAI が働く一つのワーキングアグリーメントのような形でうまくいかないかなと思っていて、で、単にコンピューターというか AI がコードを読んで、それをリファクタリングしたり、あるいは要求をコードに落としていくっていう時のルールだけじゃなくて、チームとして働く時のルールとして、それが使えるってことが分かって、で、今、サブエージェントっていう、エージェントから、いくつかのキャラクターを持った、例えばテストに長けた人、例えば、リファクタリングに長けた人、例えばパフォーマンスに測定に長けた人っていうような、いろんなエージェント、キャラクターを作ることができるっていうのも、今やり方が始まっているし、そういう、AI をツールとして使うんじゃなくて、チームメンバーとしてまず使うっていうこと。それから、チームメンバー入れたときに、人間とのアグリーメントがどういうふうにできるか。っていうことも含めて、ファイルにできるっていうこと。しかも、振り返りでそのファイルを書き換えていって、どんどんルールを AI もわかるように人間もわかるように変更するってことができるっていうのに、僕はすごい、新しい、使い方というか、あるいは使い方っていうのかな。逆にもしかしたら使われ方かもしれないね。AI から見たときに人間の使われ方みたいな、そんな変化がすごい、起きるんじゃないかなって思うんだけど。
I've heard that a lot of having different sub-agents. And often what I've seen is teams that are using maybe Claude is better at one thing versus ChatGPT being better at another thing, and using the different large language models to check each other. Sort of because often so they don't drift into hallucination. So if they can actually talk, they argue with each other.
Interesting.
Just in different roles. But I think that is fascinating of what you were saying about the AI learning from human interaction on the team. And I've heard of a product in development, which plugs into your Scrum tool, whatever it is, Jira or Trello or whatever, doesn't matter. And then plugs into Slack.
Yes.
And says, okay, now I know how you're talking to each other. And I know all your backlog and how it's getting done or not getting done. And then it can say, hold up, this is blocked before a human even notices, because it's getting all of the conversation and can react in real time with a much larger data set. Have you seen?
Yes.
I think it's wild.
Slack and GitHub, pull requests, things we use, they can read.
Yeah.
They mean AI can read. Yeah. And they watch and they can gather information from those extensive information so that they can analyze it and they suggest things.
Right.
So we should invite them to our retrospectives.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Agile is the norm in the United States and Europe, right?
It's not everywhere.
Okay.
Certainly in tech. It's the norm, whether it's Scrum or some other variant. It's, if you go to Silicon Valley and you talk to these young engineers, you talk about a waterfall, let's get all the requirements up front. And they just look at you like, you're crazy. They're like, how does that even work? But in, the more traditional organizations in the technology areas, IT, software development, I would say Agile is predominant.
Okay.
In other areas of the organization where I'm seeing the trend is, how do we do this in some sort of shared services like accounts payable, finance, of those kind of areas where it can accelerate in operational context. And then also say, how do we work as an organization to do our strategy? How do we work as an organization to regulate our governance? How do we do that in a way that's responsive? And so I'm seeing that. I'm seeing, and I think that more and more non-software organizations are adopting it. And at one level, software is eaten every organization, so there's software in every organization. But as I was saying earlier, there's a construction companies we're working with.
So it's separate from software development.
It's separate from software development. They might have software in there helping design the buildings, but these are teams, okay, like one of the impediments was the cleaning crews were coming in and scuffing up the walls. And so they would have to repaint the walls before they could deliver it. And they were getting rejected. Each apartment would get rejected on average like 7 times before they could say it's done and we could deliver it to a customer. And what we did is, just like in software, we said, why don't we move quality control up front, put acceptance criteria in, and work together rather than having a separate, like testing, rather than a separate team doing that, bring them onto the team.
So they got the impact?
Yeah, they got the impact of, it was pretty dramatic.
It
was pretty dramatic where they really got the impact very quickly of actually, because they were not delivering units at all. It's this constant rejection by quality control. And just fixing that accelerated them dramatically. The other thing that they do, and I think what I'm seeing a lot as sort of the metric that everyone is using in Agile now that I've seen, which I think is really interesting, is the say-do ratio. Okay, we said we were going to do this, of this amount. Let's say we said we would do 10 backlog items, and we did 8. And looking at that ratio constantly, you can say, okay, is this team going to accelerate? Is this team, not doing it? And you can say, why is it not meeting those promises? Are they overloaded? Are they taking too much stuff in? And what's great about that as a measure is that obviously works on the team level. You can also directly compare teams because, hey, they said they would do 8, they got 10. This team said they would do 10, and they did 5. So their say-do ratio is lower. So what's happening? What is slowing that team down?
Okay. I'm getting it. Say and do.
Yes. Or what's that term? It's a planned, in construction it's called planned promises kept.
Okay.
Because you promised you would do this, but you did this many things. I promise I will do 10 things.
It's related to reliability or...
And so you can do, and then you can do it as on the team level, on the product level, and then at the organizational level too. Hey, we said this quarter we would do X, Y, and Z things. And we can look historically. And we said, wow, historically, we're always only delivering about 50% of the things that we plan for. What's going on? Either we're just taking in too much, we're not getting stuff done. We're prioritizing too many things. But it allows you to start exploring those conversations as a team, as a business unit, as a product group, or even as an organization as a whole. So I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that there's as we were talking about earlier, using Agile how do you do an Agile as an operating model? How do you use an Agile to actually run the whole company? And again, I was saying it's how do you make sure your priorities are clear? How do you bring up impediments? How do you talk to each other? And how do you, as you were saying, what Professor Nonaka was saying, how do these teams communicate information with each other so that tacit becomes explicit, which is one of the key things in Scrum. The transparency is everything that is stuck inside someone's head becomes explicit.
Right.
And I'm seeing that people are focusing not just on lean, which is efficiency. Taiichi Ohno's the Toyota production system, which is like very, classic Japanese way of manufacturing, which is that's every manufacturer on the planet uses that at this point. But what there's in knowledge work, you want to use the techniques of lean, like what's the value stream? What's the flow? But you don't want to get out variability because because lean is like, let's get everything predictable, right? Because you're making something, you want no variability on the line. But in knowledge work, you want variability. If you're writing a paper, you don't want to do cut and paste from one to the next and say, I've written 2 papers. because you want it different. So it's using these techniques in an agile way across the organization. And one of the phrases I hear a lot is, lean will make you efficient, but agile will make you effective. And sort of using that group. And so it's how do you run the organization in an agile way is really the fundamental question. And when I talked to my father about the first Scrum teams, someone asked me the other day, did he expect it to become a global phenomenon that it is? And he said, not at all. No, I had to get something out the door. I had to deliver a product. And so I had to create a new type of organization to actually get it done on time. But he talks about, but the key is on time. And he said, he went to his engineers and said, you know how you're being yelled at all the time? You know how you're always late? He says, you know how you're working weekends all the time? He's like, I can make that all go away. But you have to deliver. If you deliver, we can all of a sudden be much more flow-based. We have a sustainable pace. We can do all these things, but you have to deliver. And that's the key thing where it's not agility just for agility's sake. It's like we're doing agile to deliver this, more sales. We're doing agile to get more efficiency. We're doing agile to be able to make more products or import more things or whatever it is. But it's not just doing agile to do agile.
Right.
Because why?
So making some results.
Yeah, making some results, some outcomes, some impact.
Yeah, impact. Yeah.
And I think that that's really one of the things that, on the organizational level outside of software and IT, that people are saying, oh, well, we can use these techniques. Yeah. And I was talking to our chief product owner of transformation consulting, this guy, Matt Jacobs. And his theories, he said, why did it come out of the software industry? Scrum and Agile, and it's become now an operating model for companies that have nothing to do with it. And it said, because it's easy for software companies to iterate quickly, because there's not steel involved. There's software, you can change a lot and learn, and it's so competitive that you have to iterate not only your product, but your organization to stay competitive. And so the organizational experimentation that happened, they evolved to this really effective way of doing things. And it's really effective. And it just came out of there because the amount of experimentation you can do in a technology company is so much greater. And so it found this way that could be applied everywhere.
So you talked about Agile for the Agile sake.
Right. Yeah, and there's an interesting statistic. Most of these agile transformations fail. It depends on what survey you believe, but between 60 and 80%. They fail and they don't deliver the goals that they are set out to do. So at Scrum Inc., at Scrum Inc. Japan, what we're saying is the reason they fail is they don't engage the whole organization. They don't engage as the operating model. They say, oh, it's an agile transformation here, and it's just over there. And it's not, because what happens is if you don't change the ecosystem, so you can have Scrum teams, you can have Scrum product teams, Scrum groups, but if you don't change the ecosystem that they work within, it doesn't. What Scrum Inc. does is say we have to develop the ecosystem around to take advantage of the acceleration that Scrum and agility gives you. And so that's really what Scrum Inc. globally and Scrum Inc. Japan are really focusing on is how do we take advantage of agility to actually be successful? Because that's what we want is our customers to go through these transformations successfully.
And Scrum is not a package to hand off.
Yeah, it's not, oh, do this here.
Yeah, it's an involvement of your culture. Right?
Yeah, I saw some research recently, and this Agile training was part of it. Scrum training was there, was saying if you just go out and you train everybody without allowing them to work in the new way, it's actually damaging because people are like, oh, I have this new wonderful way of working, but you're not letting me do it. And so that can be damaged around. So you really want, if you're an organization, what we focus on at Scrum Inc. is, okay, you want these Scrum teams to deliver value fast. What is the ecosystem they need to live within so they don't run into it? And that includes operating model. That includes all the things they're going to run across, whether it's procurement or HR or finance or all of these kind of things that can be limiters on the system. Because to bring it back to the Toyota production system and Daiichi Ono, I was talking to these lean manufacturing people, and they said, "Oh, well, let's talk." When we talk about the human system, they were saying, "Let's just talk about the waste, muda, right? Over processing, waiting,
Muda.
motion, muda." But if you actually read Ono, he says, "Well, mura, unevenness, or muri, overburden."
All right.
So those are the causes of waste. And if you look at people, if you overburden people, they burn out. If you have unevenness in the system, we have a bunch of work right now, then we have not much work. Or some people get promoted randomly and some people don't. And so that's going to cause the waste. And what Agile and Scrum does is say, what is the system that is producing the waste? So we're treating the root cause rather than just the symptom.
Yeah, once I talked with the Toyota people, and they said that the key of TPS, Toyota Production System, is thinking in your context and involving people. So it's not a principle or a rule or a formula. It's not none of them. Just it's a way of thinking, way of starting thinking in your context, not the book or not the theory. And look at the Gemba and think for yourself and talk with your team members and change things, experiment and see the results, iterate.
Right, exactly. I think that is like the Scrum and Lean and Toyota Production really came out of the same area, the same companies, the same looking at the same things, and the same
right.
Which is this mindset shift, where often that people can interpret the Toyota production system, or Lean as it's called in the West, as, we just follow these rules. We follow this rule, it'll work. And it's like, no, as you were saying, it's the people talking to each other. As Professor Tanaka said, it's the tacit becoming explicit, which cannot happen without human communication.
Right. Suppose there's a company and a team, they wants to do Agile. And they know what Agile is, but they don't know how we can start with.
Right.
What is your answer to that?
The first thing is, what are they trying to do?
Right.
What is the backlog? What are the priorities? What are they trying to, because without that, nothing else matters. What are we trying to accomplish? You start there. And that often requires, speaking with leadership, speaking with, different parts of the company. They're saying, we want to do this. And then you say, okay, if we want to do that, where in our company do we want to start? Where can we have a self-contained unit? And then it's, let's train those people, but let's, draw a line around them saying this group is going to work in an Agile way. So don't put in the traditional measures, the traditional management structure, and let's just try it and see what happens. And then you prove yourself and you iterate and you learn as you do it, and then you can repeat that across the company.
Right.
So like one customer we're working right now is about, 3,000 people. So we started in a group of about 50. We learned what is getting in the way in the operating model. They have what was really like paper communication between different things when you wanted to get a product delivered. It was just pieces of paper that had to move back and forth. That's just and be signed by a bunch of different people. We're like, that's crazy. So why don't we stop doing that? And so we learned there, and then we could replicate that learning across. But the learning is not just for that group. It's what is the whole system. So you start with one group, you got to train them because they got to know what to do. It's a new way of working. And then you have to enable them to work in this new way. It's training is critical, but then it's what's our backlog? How are we going to work differently? And then it's execution. And getting those teams to learn how to work in a new way takes a little bit of time. And usually, in my experience, it takes 7 to 10 sprints before teams really start moving. It's the classic learning. Like you learn a new way of working, you slow down at first, and then you start accelerating. And in a new way of working, you're going to have friction in the system. The system will resist it. And often I'll say, oh, man, the Scrum thing is causing so many problems. rather than say, no, the Scrum thing is making those problems visible. And I was with this one group in a government group, and they said it was, I don't know, there were 4 or 5 sprints in. We're like, we hate this Scrum thing. It's so hard and whatever. And they said, oh, do you want to go back to the old way? Like, no, that was worse. And we hate Scrum, but it's better than what we were doing before. But that took them 6 or 7 sprints or 8 sprints to really figure out. So it's, getting the backlog, getting leadership aligned. What are we going to prioritize? Training a group, launching teams, and then coaching and helping those teams learn this new way of working while they're delivering value. It's very important. You don't have to take them offline for 2 months. It's like, no, they are delivering value rapidly every sprint. And that's how they learn. That's how any humans learn, right? Kenji, it was so great talking to you. I really enjoyed this as always.
Me too, as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you.